Monday Night Raw 6/3/24, where Chad Gable and Liv Morgan put the show on their backs yet again. Meanwhile, individuals like Dragunov, Dawn, Fire, and for that matter, Cargill and Belair, and poor Nattie Knockers. Nattie Knockers losing in less than 2 minutes to Kiana? The booking of so many individuals more than questionable. Oh, we're going to talk about it. Before we get into this review, of course, smash that up. It helps BC know you're fully amplified. And for those jumping on board to the channel and subscribing, welcome. Good to have you on board. We only ask one thing, that you stay amplified. That and don't be a disrespectful schmuck. That'll get you an automatic Das Boot. We have a zero tolerance policy on disrespect. No acknowledgement, just a boot. So, welcome. And you may want to, just a heads up, you may want to also smash the notification if you are going to subscribe. It's like having a peanut butter sandwich without the jelly or fluff. You wouldn't want to do that. You're not going to have the macaroni without the cheese. You're going to want to notify with the subscription. Just a heads up, because we don't follow a schedule on this channel. Everything I do is pretty impromptu, spontaneous, especially live streams or even reviews like this. So you want to be notified with the subscription. My veteran subscribers will tell you that's the way to go. But either way, welcome on board. Good to have you. Thank you for the subscription. Now, for Monday Night Raw 6/3/24, as I said, I feel Morgan and Chad Gable carried this show. Did anyone else step up? Did booking step up in any other segment? Let's find out. So this show starts with Cole and McAfee on commentary. You may say, well, BC, that's the commentary team. Of course it's going to start off with them. Not so fast. Pat McAfee found himself in a little bit of trouble earlier in the day when he's on his Pat McAfee show for ESPN. And he called Caitlin Clark, or referred to Caitlin Clark, the big women's college basketball star, now turned WNBA star. I believe Indiana Fever is the team she is on. But she was referred to by Pat McAfee as that white beep. Only he didn't say beep. He said another B word. And that pretty much said, no matter the context that it was in, people hear what they want to hear. And that started the cries to get Pat McAfee off of commentary last night. It was real, man. A lot of people wanted McAfee off of WWE. A lot of people still here the next day want ESPN to remove Pat McAfee. So it got wild. WWE stayed the course. We're hearing that Michael Cole, more than anybody, went to bat for him and said, no, you're going on live tonight. So McAfee, and if you were wondering how defiant or stubborn or how many F's McAfee doesn't give, when Strowman came out later in the night, actually it was that the second hour? Maybe it was the end of where was that? Which one? Maybe it was the second hour. When Strowman came out, he did a run-in, so that was in the first hour. When Strowman came out, what Pat McAfee refers to him as, that'll tell you how Pat Mac was feeling about everybody crying and telling him, or telling WWE they should remove him. Pat McAfee referred to Strowman. We'll go over that when we get to it. That'll be in a few minutes. But that'll tell you how many F's that Pat McAfee does not give. So Cole McAfee on commentary. Liv Morgan and Dominik Mysterio are going to start this show. Liv is hardcore flirting with Mysterio and straight up tells the dude she wants to take him from Rhea. Just told him flat out her intention. So Finn Balor then comes to the ring to inform Liv Morgan that Dominik wants nothing to do with her. Basically, stay out of Judgment Day business. She leaves, but not before one last smile to Dominik. And this time, we see a little smile back from Dum Dum. And I say Dum Dum because if you're turning your back on Rhea Ripley, that's not smart. Morgan doing that thing last night before she left, that one last smile. And Dominik couldn't help but look and give a little smile back, much to the dismay of Finn Balor. So pretty interesting dynamic there, man. That's one of the better stories going on in on a 3-hour show. It's one of the only really good or even decent stories on the show. Unfortunately, that and Chad Gable is the only ones I can come across. We'll see if I'm wrong about that when we keep going through this show. But from the jump, we got one of the better stories, and that would not be the last time they would go face to face later in the night. Liv Morgan would once again find her way in front of Dominik, and once again, Finn Balor, the overbearing father, was not going to be happy about it. We'll go over that. I think that was like hour 3. Maybe even the main event, actually, with all that chaos. So that was the first segment of the night. Again, not bad because this is one of their better storylines. Now, the first matchup of the night, this was Ludwig Kaiser defeating Sheamus via pinfall. Now, if you didn't watch this show, and I know many of you guys, you don't watch the actual show, you just check out BC's review the next day, and I appreciate that big time. The fact that you guys trust BC to give you that honest review of these shows. And if I praise them, you guys go back and watch some of the segments. If I rip the show apart, you guys are like, thank you, BC, I missed nothing. So if you didn't catch this show, what I'm about to say may sound wild, but there were parts of this match that were better than Gunther versus Sheamus. It was definitely more physical than a Sheamus-Gunther match at times. And this is Kaiser. Earlier in the day, WWE spat out like 6 or 7 matchups for the night. This was earlier in the day, and all I'm thinking is, oh man, this is going to be one of those shows where they're just stuffing a bunch of random wrestling matches together. There's not going to be any emphasis on storytelling or storylines. There's not going to be that spontaneity, that excitement value that should be instilled in these shows. They're just going to throw 7 matches. Just earlier in the day, just advertise 7 matchups. And I'd be lying if I said Kaiser versus Sheamus was a match I was excited about. Absolutely wasn't. I was looking at all these matches and I was like, man, that's how we have to spend our prime time on a Monday night. But this match from the jump, I'm like, if that's how they're going to perform, if that's the booking behind the match, if that's how they're going to go out there and do the deed, kick back with your bevies, kick the feet up and let's rock. Unfortunately, I think they set the bar so high, no pun intended for Sheamus, but they set the bar so high that I don't know if anybody could really match that. Not even the main event. Kaiser defeats Sheamus via pinfall. You hate to see Sheamus. He just got back. You hate to see Sheamus lose like that, right? He was selling a leg injury, and then he kind of just got rolled up off of selling the leg injury. So it's a little bit of a roll. I mean, he's holding them down, but at least they did go to war. The dude was selling an injury, so it's not a straight up like a hold him down maneuver to finish the match. So I'm actually okay with it. And I'm okay with giving Kaiser a little bit of a push finally. The dude's more than just a sidekick to Gunther. Especially after last week when Sheamus called him just a Ken doll, right? Because everybody calls his real life girlfriend Tiffany Stratton a Barbie doll. So they look at Kaiser like a Ken doll. And that's how a lot of people actually perceive him. So Sheamus actually called him that in a promo last week. And I think this was the opportunity for Kaiser to get people to look at him a little bit differently. He's not just a Ken doll, but he can go in that ring. And he can be just as physical as Gunther can be. Anyway, probably going a little too long on that. In my notes, all I had was Ludwig Kaiser defeats Sheamus via pinfall. Because I knew I was going to expand a little bit afterwards. Moving on. This was Finn Balor defeating Dragon Lee via pinfall. This was off the coup de grace. Carlito was out there. I don't know. There was some like distray. I think maybe it was just Carlito. I don't know. But the end result was coup de grace. Finn Balor gets his hand raised. That's what should be happening, obviously. The funny part here, not so funny, is there was a video package for Dragon Lee before the match. It's like, oh, they're finally, after this dude has already been on SmackDown, on Raw, has already lost in one match. He's already 50-50 booked, if not a little worse. Now you're finally going to give this guy a video package. And then minutes later, he's flat on his back looking up at the lights. I'm like, hey, video package, this dude's special, man. This is a big deal in case you guys were sleeping on him. Well, no, booking was sleeping on him. So, of course, the crowd was going to go to sleep when he's out there. So then they play the video package like he's a big deal, or they're going to make him a big deal, and they make him lose his first match the very next I don't know, within 5 minutes after the video package. It was just, it's like, are they thinking about what they're doing here? Hey, this guy he might be a loser, but he's a special loser. He gets video packages. But I know, Carlito was out. The post-match, in fact, Carlito, he joins Balor for a beating on Dragon Lee. And that's what brings out Braun Strowman and Ret Mysterio for the save. Now, the best part of all of this, right? Because Finn Balor beating Dragon Lee, no, I don't need to wait all day, because that was one of the 7 matches they announced hours before the show. I don't think many people are like, I can't wait to see Balor and Dragon Lee, unless they actually thought they were going to put on a 25, 30-minute clanger, right? It was going to get 8 stars from, this imaginary star system. Maybe they thought they were going to get something like that. No, you're going to get a less than 5-minute WWE match between the two. And you're going to get some interference and post-match schmozzery, and that's what happened here. So the best part in all of this came when Pat McAfee saw Strowman coming down the ramp, the aisle. And McAfee says, and I quote, "That is one big white son of a beep." He did not say beep. He said the other B word. Of course, the tube doesn't like that anymore. But he said that big white son of a... Now, remember what got him in trouble earlier in the day and why people wanted him off commentary for WWE and why a lot of people want him off of ESPN. Obnoxiously, by the way. But it's because he referred to Caitlin Clark as the white beep. Well, now he looks at Strowman, he says, that's one big white. Come on, bro. That is defiancy at its largest. Friggin' Pat McAfee, man. You could tell Michael Cole kind of like laughed too after he said it. I mean, those two just have so much fun together. Sometimes too much, and the poor wrestlers in the ring are like, dude, we're trying to tell a story here, and they'll be off, because Cole has been doing this for so long. The dude just probably thinking about retirement already. Pat McAfee admits he doesn't watch the shows. He doesn't. Like, he has to get there a few hours before, obviously, which is hard to do because he does his show, or he's being briefed on the flight over, but he's got to, like, learn names. He says this in interviews. Like, when they do, like, the draft for it, he didn't know what a Kiana was or anything. He doesn't know he doesn't know the storylines with Dragon Lee or what the Judgment Day's doing. He knows nothing. He doesn't watch it. And then you have a dude like Cole who's just checked out. He's Ben. Sometimes it's too much. The poor wrestlers in the ring are like, dude, check yourself, man. Come back. Talk about what we're doing. Anyway, man, that caught BC, and I was like, oh, come on, man. That's Pat McAfee with the big FU to the mainstream mead. Hour number 2 after that. So that was all of hour 1, guys. We just had Liv Morgan flirting with Dominik and Balor being upset about it. Ludwig defeats Sheamus and Balor defeats Dragon Lee. Right? After all the commentary and the reviewing that I just did and the thoughts on it, the analysis, the breakdown, dissecting that first hour. When it's all said and done, that was it. Kaiser defeats Sheamus, Balor defeats Dragon Lee. That's it. Now we go to hour 2. Right about now is where I'd be having a swig of coffee. Coffee maker is down. Can't wait to get over to Dunkin' to double fist some double shot extras. Because, man, BC needs to be running on some Dunkin' right now. But hour 2, we start off with Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn is going to call out Chad Gable. Instead, a dejected Maxine, Tozawa, and Otis come to the ring. Maxine now reads a statement in front of her, like a little postie pad card or whatnot. And Maxine reads a statement to Sami that is from Chad Gable. And it says, and Maxine is reading this to Sami from Gable, "You are not worth my time. You thought you could turn my own academy against me, but they're nothing without me. Tozawa, an idiot running around backstage pretending to be a ninja. Otis, a child that couldn't even hold on to his Money in the Bank briefcase. And a useless knockoff Barbie in Maxine." But I thought Tiffany Stratton was the Barbie. No, it's Maxine. Chad Gable has been calling her the knockoff Barbie. Chad Gable And I got to give the Academy a lot of praise too, because the way they're playing off of their roles are being played beautifully. Everybody in this Alpha Academy storyline, man, are they pulling. It's not just Chad Gable, but this was just so well done. And to have Maxine read her own diss that Gable was giving her, not just to Tozawa and Otis, it was just so well done. This is where Sammy tries to convince all three of them that they don't need to follow Gable. But it's pretty much a little bit of a setup, right? Gable attacks Sammy from behind. With Sammy laid out, Gable starts belittling the Academy, shoving Tozawa, poking at his dome piece, kicks out Maxine because Maxine's like, come on, please stop, don't push him. So now Gable's like, get out, Barbie, get out. Ejects Maxine from ringside. That's the second week in a row that Maxine has gotten Das Boot. But for the first time, Otis steps up to Gable. For the first time, we see Otis get in front of Chad Gable. Stop demeaning. Stop belittling Maxine. He's pissed. But, and this would, I believe, allow Sammy to take out Chad Gable for a moment, though. Only for the moment. Because eventually, the thought process, the conscience of Otis would kick in, and he would ultimately side with Chad Gable. So even though Sami Zayn, Otis, they were all free of Gable for a moment, Otis came to his senses and dropped Sami Zayn. Chad Gable puts the post-match beating on, or post-match, puts the post beating, and Otis realigns with Chad Gable, basically. That's all you need to know. So this was really good, man. And when it was all said and done, Sami Zayn's looking up at the lights. And even though Otis did end up helping Gable, Gable was still belittling the Academy. And it was cool. Before we went to commercial, Otis was carrying Tozawa and Maxine. Maxine had like sprained her ankle through the attack of Gable and Sami when they were all tussling. Maxine was kind of bumped off the apron, twisted her ankle. So Otis is carrying her, and Tozawa somehow was laid out in the process. I don't even know. Maybe Gable took him out. But Tozawa's on his shoulders and Maxine in his hands. And Otis is carrying both to the back. Otis, he always could have been a star. He still can be a mega star. It's amazing that they pulled this dude back. They were giving him a monster push. The crowd was loving him. Booking gave him a briefcase. And then before you know it, briefcase gone. He's in NXT. He comes back and he's just mean mugging. Everything that everyone loved about Otis was just gone, including his good booking. It was so weird. So when this is said and done, if they keep doing this correctly, man, Otis could be a megastar. I ain't talking no LA Knight. I know that's his phrase. But no, he could truly be something massive. Of course, you would have to keep giving him solid. It can't just be this one good storyline and then he falls to obscurity. We saw that with Sami Zayn, right? The Bloodline storyline. Sami Zayn was on top of the wrestling world when the Bloodline storyline was over. Sami Zayn, to this day, even with the IC title, Sami Zayn's kind of, if he misses a show 2 or 3, you're probably not on the top priority list, right? Oh, where was Sami Zayn the last 3 weeks? There's so many top stars ahead of him that you're thinking of, right? Whether it's a Cody Rhodes, a CM Punk, where's Rollins? When's he coming back? Oh, when's Roman coming back? Drew McIntyre, the Yeet Master, Jey Uso. So many people leapfrogged him, but there was a moment a lot of people forget. A little over a year ago, man, Sami Zayn was on top of the wrestling world. And it was that storyline that just catapulted. And after that storyline, that was it. I hope that's not the case with Otis. Otis has some real value, and he checks off so many boxes. Anyway, that's probably a little bit too much time on this segment, but it was very well done. That's what I mean. Liv Morgan, Chad Gable. And who they're working with Morgan, Dominik, and even Balor playing their roles beautifully. With Chad Gable, Sami Zayn, the rest of the Alpha Academy. But Liv Morgan and Chad Gable are the centerpieces, make no mistake about it. They are the nucleus to something special in these two storylines. Bron Breakker would defeat Ricochet via the Frankensteiner spear combo. So good to see Bron Breakker carrying on his Uncle Scott Steiner's Frankensteiner. For those that don't know, it's a Hurricanrana, but Scotty Steiner would always perform that flawlessly and call it. He made it his own, the Frankensteiner. To this day, I still call that Hurricanrana. I still call it the Frankensteiner. And he did it, man. Bron Breakker, he got ballsy. He got a little cocky there, and he ran up those ropes like a cruiserweight. Look, ma, no hands. Starts pointing to every direction and does the most... He pulled it off because Ricochet was so flawless in the way that he worked with him. But he did it in such a way where it seemed like it was nearly careless, right? I mean, he just got really cocky. Point, and he just... like he was just moonsaulting onto a mattress or something. Luckily, Ricochet, I mean, you can go back and watch the replay. They even did it in slow-mo, I believe. Ricochet had to really be intuitive to what Braun was doing. He really had to play off him flawlessly, or Braun would have looked like an idiot. If Ricochet, there's wrestlers that they'll be a little bit of a dick. They'll teach you a lesson there, and then they'll hold for a second, and you want to do all this showery, and then you're just going to fall backwards. You're going to look like an idiot. You just did a moonsault by yourself because I didn't go with you. But Ricochet, man, really made him look like $1 billion. If you saw the match, if you saw the fit, you know what I'm talking about. And then Braun delivers the spear. The spear, though. Ricochet probably knew that. Like, dude, you got a little cocky there at the end, you know? Like, just deliver the Frankensteiner. Because you made me work extra hard. So then when it was time for the spear, the very next move, Ricochet didn't sell that like he usually does. Or a spear. Like last week, for instance, when Braun speared Ricochet and he went inside out totally. Just a 180. He flipped him inside out like a pancake. This spear... Ricochet didn't sell it so nicely. So I bet you Ricochet was kind of maybe perturbed from that Frankensteiner. Anyway, that's what you get on this channel, man. I dissect it flawlessly for you guys. So you guys are in on every move that transpired, man. Take it inside the match like no one else. So this is one of those situations where it just doesn't make sense because post-match, Braun is beating on, and not the Ricochet loss. Ricochet always loses. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the post-match beating, where Braun is taking out Ricochet some more to prove a point. Still upset that he wasn't in this tournament, this King of the Ring. But Dragunov comes out for the save on Ricochet. Now, we all knew that was happening, right? They got this weird trio thing going on. And that's where you have to ask, what are we doing here? Like, what are we honestly doing if you're going to have Dragunov do nothing but lose on the main roster and be more concerned with making friends, because that's been Dragunov's booking, correct? I'm not over-exaggerating. This guy was flat on his back looking up at the lights from a simplistic splash to Jey Uso a few weeks ago. Last week, he couldn't even beat Ricochet, who had his ribs busted up. He was fighting with basically half of his body, and it took him 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, it was Dragunov that was about to lose again. He was flat on his back looking up at the lights after a shooting star press. But thankfully for Dragunov, Bron Breakker broke it up. And Dragunov only lost by a DQ last week. But he's just racking up consecutive losses, and he's more concerned with helping Ricochet all of a sudden. The problem is, that's not Dragunov's character. That's not Dragunov, guys. This is a completely different this is not just an average wrestler now that Paul Levesque McMahon is booking. This is a below average wrestler. He just debuted. There's nothing special about him. He just loses to guys like Ricochet, Jey Uso. He's trying to make friends with Ricochet. This is not the Dragunov. If you guys know Dragunov, if you've seen his work, right? You know his character. You were excited. And you could say, well, BC, it's patience, man, patience. Paul Levesque McMahon is doing what he does. He humbles the wrestlers, right? He gives them a bunch of L's, and then he turns by then, it might be too late. Look at Solo Sikoa. This isn't landing like it should be with Solo, because after he annihilated John Cena, he went on a 6-month, 40 consecutive loss world tour. 40 straight losses over 6 months. And then when Roman took off and Solo's supposed to be the leader of a group, if you're wondering why the ratings are not there, if people are not caring, if the views for Solo segments are diminished, That's why they didn't book this guy to be a star over the last. You just annihilated John Cena. They should have booked this dude to the moon. Because you already released Cameron Grimes, right? So you got the gimmick. Give it over to Solo. No. So maybe the company sees, maybe Paul Levesque McMahon saw that like it's not his time to run he needs a lot of improvement, right? Maybe they saw that. Then John Cena should have been privy to that information. So John Cena didn't have to do the ultimate deed for somebody the company was never going to back at that moment. I still don't know if the company wants to back the dude fully right now. But Solo is just an example of if you take somebody that you can do really big things with and you absolutely just destroy what makes them special by making them average AF, well, when it comes time to try to push them and give them some of that rocket, it's too late. People don't care anymore. You got to be careful with this man. What made Dragunov special is now I'm looking at Dragunov, I'm like, dude, this is pretty average. And what do? You can't lead to any. This is weird. They have this weird 3 thing going like they just did with Chad Gable, Sami Zayn, Bronson Reed. They always do these type of things. But usually, I'm not saying it makes it that much better, but usually there's a reasoning. There's a title on the line. They don't even have a title. This is just a guy who's been the mayor of Jobberville since day one, Ricochet, and 2 absolutely new wrestlers to the mainstream audience of the main roster of WWE. They're both brand new, Bron Breakker and Dragunov, with a dude that's been nothing more than a jobber. I don't know what that's supposed to do. And with no title on the line, a triple threat is meaningless. It's nonsensical. So you're just going to have a bunch of one-on-one matches within the 3. The problem with that is you're going to have to eventually do Bron Breakker versus Dragunov. That is absolutely ludicrous. They're both brand new. Both cannot afford a loss. Bron Breakker, we all can agree, cannot take a loss because booking is actually backing him right now. They're making him a powerhouse. There's no way Braun should be losing a match. So Dragunov would have to what? Eat another L? I don't care if it's a count out or if it's a disqualification. I don't care how it's done. Another L is another L because it's another person that Dragunov could not defeat in an allotted amount of time, right? Couldn't beat Jey Uso. He could not beat Ricochet, and he's not going to beat Bron Breakker, I believe. Ricochet might interfere, but he would take out Braun, right? Storyline-wise, that would be the only play, which would disqualify. It just makes no sense. And when I say eventually Braun has to take on Dragunov because they booked him in this stupid scenario, I mean next week, because they already announced a segment after this. They already announced that Dragunov will take on Bron Breakker next week. That's the type of booking where somebody has to pull Paul Levesque McMahon aside and go, brah, you messed this one up. We have to change this. I'm saying this humbly but sincerely to you, right? I'm saying this because I care about you, the company, right? They have to have that talk with him. We have to change this. You can't just throw that out there because even if it's a DQ countout loss, to somebody like Dragunov, this is a dude that should be showing the world why he is special. Not going out there every week and not being able to get the job done. Oh, bro, I just don't understand this at all. You put a dude like Dragunov in a scenario where he's not the one with the power booking. It's Bron Breakker, right? This is all being done, so Bron Breakker's the powerhouse. That's great. Why is Dragunov in this? Why is he trying to make friends with Ricochet instead of concentrating on how can I win a match on the main roster? It's ludicrous, guys. It's not nitpicking. It's not over-exaggerating. This is absolutely absurd booking because I'm thinking ahead. We've already done this so many times. We've done this type of booking. Oh, don't worry. It's pro wrestling. He's going to rack up some L's. He's going to be booked in obscurity. They're going to humble him down. And when the time's right, they'll be booked properly. No, it doesn't work that way because by then, nobody cares. We're not just going to forget the booking, right? We don't forget that, bro. Right? If the Ultimate Warrior started off just like losing a bunch of his matches and trying to make friends instead, right? The Ultimate Warrior would have never become what he became. I hope you guys realize that when the Warrior started, Warrior wasn't losing. Warrior was creating something so magnetic, so the magnitude we haven't seen since maybe Hulkamania, and they were around the same time. But Ultimate Warrior didn't lose until I believe like Rick Rude, right? Like a SummerSlam, something like that. Rick Rude, and that's why it was a massive deal. Everybody was talking about it, guys. Whoa, the Warrior lost, right? Dragunov is one of those characters that's more special than the average. He just is, and he's really good. That's why, right? It's not just because he was booked good in NXT and now we're supposed to do the same thing, BC. No, it's because he's that freaking good to the point where you're only doing the right thing by giving him good booking and allowing people to see that he's a winner, not a loser. That he shouldn't have to struggle this hard to pick up W's over Jason Usos and Ricochets. That's why, man, you can't stand to see something that should be so special, and you don't have to wait for it, right? I mean, you can't wait for it. You have to book them special now because they just are special. You hate to see someone like that just get booking like this, man. It makes no sense. And next week, we're doing Bron Breakker, 2 dudes that can't lose. One of them's going to take a DQ loss. Or could you imagine if they just had Dragunov just lose literally 1, 2, 3 pinfall? Could you imagine if they just had Dragunov just eat another L, flat on his back, pinfall-wise? I wouldn't put it past him at this point, man. I wouldn't put it past him. Wild. But that match is official for next week, and as I said, neither dude can lose, but one of them has to. I mean, how are you going to throw the match out? If Ricochet jumps in, he's going to attack Braun, and they're going to say it's thrown out? No, it's not. Ricochet attacked Braun. It's pretty simplistic. That's another DQ for... We'll see. We'll let it play out, man. But something tells me that's going to be a big rant on next Monday's Raw review. Let's move on, man. And this was... I can't say this was any better, but you can't get worse than the scenario that Dragunov's in. But this was pretty damn bad. This is Kiana James defeating Nattie Bubenheimer via the 401 KO finisher. This was a 2-minute match. That's it. Now I have 3 simplistic views on this, right? 3. Number 1, Nattie is better than that, right? It's a rhetorical question. Nattie's better than that, right? A 2-minute loss to Kiana. Nattie is better than that. I want to believe that. Like, I want to believe that booking doesn't just look at Nattie and go, you're going to go on for 2 minutes and just look up at the lights for Kiana. After all the equity and time, blood, sweat, and tears that Nattie has put into this, that was hard to watch. Number 2, Kiana has a lot to improve on. And that's me being generous, and I'll leave it at that. Kiana has a lot to improve on. Number 3, Nattie's juggernauts were robustly titillating. Moving on. Braun Strowman defeats Carlito in just 90 seconds, which is 30 seconds less than it took Kiana to defeat Nattie Knockers the match previous. So, I mean, if we're going by who can beat people the fastest, Braun Strowman defeated Kiana James by 30 seconds. Strowman defeats Carlito. This Braun W was off a faceplant chokeslam. Post-match, Judgment Day beats down Strowman with a steel chair, mostly JD McDonuts. Liv Morgan would appear on the outside and would back up Dominik into the apron, so Dominik had no room to really escape, and Liv is hardcore flirting. Balor sees this, jumps out of the ring with the quickness. He looked like an overbearing father, right? Get away from my daughter! Get away from my Dominik! He looked like that dude that sees his daughter outside with the boyfriend, right, through the window, so he darts out the door. He gets right in between Liv Morgan and Dominik. It's just reversed, right? It's his son, and he's like, get away from my son. You're a bad influence, girl. Balor was just hilarious. The look on his face when he saw Liv Morgan. The MVP here, Morgan and Dominik. Obviously, Liv Morgan is the nucleus. But if you're going to have another MVP, you got to give a little nod over to Balor, dude. I love this little thing where Balor's really trying to be... he's trying to be the voice of reason for Dominik. Anyway, I have to ask. This is one of those Paul Levesque McMahon booking decisions that is... There's no other way. Stupid, right? What is Paul Levesque McMahon doing or not doing, I would ask, with Carlito? Carlito was awesome. Carlito should be awesome. Why is Carlito not awesome right now? Carlito is so cool, man. And I don't, no pun intended, right? Carlito cool. Carlito, even when we were younger, is like this, you just look at him and you know he's just different in a good way, right? Like this dude is just a star. He's just a star. He's just different, unique in a special way. Obviously he can go in the ring. He's got the look. It's just, man, you talk about like just checking off all the Carlito, man. I don't know how you bring this guy back, and it's just like every week I just feel he's doing these weird run-ins, and they get confusing because I see him a lot during the show, so you would think that's a good thing, but he's always looking like an idiot. He's doing like run-in jobs, but he's not even like winning the match for the person he's trying to help. Or he's being like completely insulted backstage, or he's just flat on his back looking up at the lights. Like this one again, what was this? 90 seconds, right? Braun Strowman just annihilates him in 90. I'm like, is that really what we bought Carlito back for? Just very odd, man. Carlito should, I don't know. Maybe I'm saying that because I'm just a big Carlito supporter, right? A little bias on that, maybe. But I doubt I'm the only one that looks at Carlito and goes, can we be doing more with him? I think so, absolutely. Anyway, moving on. Oh, this was an impromptu women's tag title match. Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair versus Zoey Stark and Shayna Baszler. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn would interfere, and the match is thrown out. The four would end up getting smart, and they would lay out Belair and Jade. I was thinking that the only way this is going to work is if the four of you get together and try to take them out. And that's the only way they kept them down for like 11 seconds, 12 seconds maybe. This is why this is absolutely stupid. It's the Piper Niven situation, right? Piper Niven has been a job. Let's be honest, right? The jobber, they throw her with Chelsea Green. They're just a comedy act tag team. And much love and respect to Chelsea Green, too. I love her place in the company, just like I used to love the Iconics. I always thought they had a place in the company when everybody else was trashing them. Chelsea Green is such a good talent, and Piper Niven is a good talent. But they don't have anything for him. That's clear. They threw them together, and they're just, they take more L's than W's, and that's just their role. So they haven't been booked good. I won't say they haven't been booked good. And out of nowhere, because WWE is going to Scotland next Saturday, their next big PLE, the Clash at the Castle, because of that, they plucked Piper Niven out of obscurity and irrelevancy, and she's going for the title because it's Scotland, right? Like Drew McIntyre is going for the championship off of this injury. Okay, I get it, right? You're in Scotland. It's a Clash at the Castle. You're going to do the Piper Niven sitch. It's like plucking Zelina Vega because they're going to Puerto Rico and then she's going to have that title match. Who was that against? Io? Whatever it was. And I'm a big Zelina supporter, so I was more than okay with that. But they go to these locations and they're just trying to get that talent. But if they're not booked properly beforehand, it just comes across so bad. Piper Niven all of a sudden going for a world championship with Bayley. What? But then you take Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, who many thought were released. They were just gone. No, they were just absolutely told, go home, we have nothing for you. Nearly, almost, from the time they got to the main roster. They got to the main roster, they were excited they were called up, had a match or two, took some L's, and then were told to go home. And they've been there for months, basically. They show up to dark matches and do some weird things behind the scenes, backstage, right? Gossiping like schoolgirls behind segments and interviews. But that's it. And all of a sudden, I see where this is leading. By Clash at the Castle, there's going to be some weird tag title match where maybe a three-way, right? We have Shayna and Zoey with Fire and Dawn and Jade and Bianca. Or Zoey and Shayna versus Isla and Alba. This gets a little confusing. They'll have a match, and whoever wins that will take. But either way, I see how this is going, man. They're going to pluck Alba and Isla from irrelevancy thanks to their own booking. It's not the fans' fault for not wanting to see them. I think people were excited to see what Alba and Isla were going to do. booking told us not to care. And now all of a sudden, because it's Scotland next Saturday, they show up on TV for the first time in the longest, like in an actual, like, meaningful segment, not just behind the scenes or anything like that. In a meaningful segment, they show up, and then next weekend, we're supposed to watch them go for titles? Because it's Scotland? This is where it gets weird. I wish the company just looked at the future a little bit, looked long-term. It's okay to do that every now and again, right? And say, hey, we're going to Scotland in a few months. Maybe we should do something more with Alba and Isla. No, they wait till the week before, when Zoey and Shayna already started a thing with Bianca and Jade. It's so odd, God. This is what's frustrating for a lot of fans, right? It's not nitpicking. We're not taking it too seriously. No, we're talking about pro wrestling. We're talking about the show. And how just so much of it just doesn't make sense. And it's nothing that can't be corrected in a snap of a finger, right? That's what's frustrating. These are all minor things that if you just think, you could easily tweak it to where it makes sense, right? And it helps everybody, including you, the company. They just don't do it. They do the most weirdest shit, almost to just do stupid shit. Just to do stupid things. We got to move on, man. You could probably spend hours on just the ludicrousy of some of the decision making, but we do have to move on. There was more show. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. We had an awkward Jey Uso promo next. Jey Uso, the Yeet Master. So Jey Uso is in the crowd cutting this promo. That's why it starts off so awkwardly anyway, because they want you to get this image that he's out there with his Fireflies, right? He says he acquired the Fireflies. That's why I do feel like the Uncle Howdy, Wyatt Six formation, whatever this ends up being, I think one of the first good feuds would be with Jey Uso. Just makes sense. But he's out there with all his yeeters, right? And the yeeters of the world. And he's talking about money in the bank. I mean, we can't even get past Clash at the Castle. This dude is talking about money in the bank. And he's trying to get everyone to yeet with him after every, you know how he says something and then they yeet. The problem was they weren't all doing it at first, and I think he thought that was probably how it was wrote out, right? Like they're all going to yeet, so just take a pause after everything, which is what he does. But everybody wasn't really into it. Then there was a moment where everybody did catch on, but it extended maybe a little bit too long, but also there was nothing special being said. He's just talking about like winning. The crowd on hand was kind of like, what are we doing? So by the end of the promo, he's trying to get everyone to yeet with him. Like most people had fallen off at that point. Like a lot of yeeters stopped yeeting. So the final yeet was maybe 30% of the crowd. And that's it. And Jey Uso, I say it every week, some multiple times a week, right? My favorite tag team, Jimmy and Jay. That's how much respect I have for Jay. But he's never been one of the best on the microphone, right? He's very shy, and that's not his strong suit. So when it ended like that, there was nothing afterwards, right? The crowd was silent. Jay just puts the mic. He's in the crowd, don't forget. Crowd goes kind of silent. He drops the mic, and that's the end of the segment, right? They were all just supposed to loudly yeet and then cheer, but the yeeting was diminished, and there wasn't a lot of cheering, and Jay went silent, and segment was done. Well, that wasn't too good. I would say I'm so done with the yeeting, but I never started with the yeeting. I've always been just, I don't yeet. It's so weird. Maybe that's a kid thing, right? Like if you're a toddler or whatever, or a kid, you like to yeet around. I don't know. I just can't. Yeah, that can be cool. What? Those are cool things you can have some fun with. But yeeting my day away. I don't know. And going up to people and yeeting, or just yeeting out of the blue. That's just. BC was never on board with it, so you can just imagine how it's nauseating. It is. Is it to the level of Seth Rollins's sing along at the beginning of his theme music? No, I don't think anything can be that nauseating. I literally have to mute the beginning of Seth Rollins's theme because I can't do that. Everyone turns into zombies, and for 3 minutes we just have to do this weird. No, thank you. No, thanks. I'll pass. For Jason Uso, at least we just got to get some yeets and just be done with it. Backstage, Io Sky attacks Valkyria and screams outrageously in screeching Japanese. They just gave Io Asuka's old character. AOP then defeats the New Day via pinfall. Thank you, New Day. Can somebody just turn the New Day into something we care about? Thank you. What do we do? What's the New Day do? What is the New Day? After over a decade of the New Day, can they be any more irrelevant? To quote Chandler, can this be any more boring? AOP. And AOP, they're a stone's throw away from being just as boring. Main event, Damien Priest defeats Rey Mysterio via pinfall. Dragon Lee and Carlito were involved in this match, and the show ends with the Judgment Day putting Drew McIntyre, who would come out, Drew McIntyre through the commentary table. The Judgment Day random attacks and interference, it's getting redundant and it's pretty much dumb. Too much Judgment Day interference. If you're going to have Judgment Day a focal point of the show throughout, I'm okay with it, but have them in some fun stuff, unique segments that make them look good. Most of the time, they're interfering and getting dropped on their dome piece, and the person they're trying to help ends up losing anyway. This was one of the rare moments last night when this show went off the air that the Judgment Day was actually standing tall. One of the rare moments, man. And that might tell you that in Scotland, maybe Drew is taking that title in the homeland of Scotland and waiting for CM Punk to arrive to take that title from him. I told you guys, I still don't see how Damien fits into this equation. McIntyre needs the title, and when Punk comes back, he gets it from Mac in a big match with the title on the line. That's the only way this plays out. Right now, unfortunately, and I got much respect for Damien, he's a placeholder right now, bruh. Right now, he's just a transitional champion. I don't see how you can keep that title on Damien for the next 6 months. I don't. Sorry, not sorry. And he doesn't need that to be a big star. Damien, at this point in his career, needs solid booking. Find ways to truly get over with the fans. The title is not needed to do that, nor is it gonna do that. And when you truly get over with the fans and you truly make it to that next level, then Damien is gonna come back for that title and hold it for a real title reign. That's the facts. BC. Until next time, and there will be that next time. Top guys, we're out. BC and the Hamp Unit saying check you. Peace.